All right, welcome to the Mi Duole podcast, episode 77. I'm Stuart Anderson. Just a short introduction before we hear from Josh Bradley. Grateful for Josh, thankful that he would be on and share his story. We talk about it just a little at the end of the podcast, how fun it is to hear everyone's story, meet everybody a little bit better, and dig into their background, what they do. There's been a lot of fun talk about just meeting guys through the podcast, which is what we hoped to accomplish, to get to know each other a little better and know our stories. So super grateful for Josh for sharing a little bit about himself, what he loves about cycling, obviously what he does for a job, his family, and how his story kind of unfolds. So thankful for his time, thankful for Corby who joined me here, and not only thankful for that, but grateful for Corby for stepping up with his business, Cycling Upgrades, to be a huge sponsor of the team this year. Thankful for him and everything he's doing, including you can place all the blame on him for this week's distance challenge on Zwift. It's bad. It's getting weird, but also very fun to see what some prizes have done to encourage and motivate guys here on this long winter. So big thanks to Corby. We have a few announcements inside the podcast you can listen to about camp. Kit pickup March 16th at 6:37 up at Hangar 15. That's 7 o'clock, not 6:30. And I would encourage you, if you cannot pick up your gear, to please ask a friend to go and get it for you. Difficult to ship all of the kits to everyone who cannot make it. It just works a lot better for us and our team, especially the budget, to be able to have a friend pick up your stuff and deliver it to you. So I'd appreciate that. We'd appreciate that if you arrange that with your teammates. Big love to everybody. Thankful for this squad. Thankful for 77 episodes of this podcast, and look forward to some really fun episodes coming up in the next couple weeks. So enjoy, Josh, and thanks for tuning in. Bye. All right, welcome to the podcast or YouTube video. I'm finding out a lot of people watch on YouTube because I don't upload to any Android device. Sorry about that, faithful listeners. That's my fault. Is that a thing, Josh?
Is what a thing? Sorry.
Like not being able to listen on. I only upload to iTunes. So
I have. You can actually click on the link and it will take you to Apple's. I think you can do it. I think you can click on the link, but it's not native. That's for sure.
Whoops.
Plus, it's nice to see people's faces.
I agree. And look at our two lovely guests today are just dolled out in gear. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And Josh is even wearing a T-shirt underneath the sweatshirt.
Yeah, it's red.
Dude, that white sweatshirt. That white sweatshirt looks good. That was money.
I like it.
I'm Stuart. That's Josh Bradley. And look at you, Corby. What were you doing today? What happened today? Will you tell us what's happening? What have you put us through?
I don't know what I have done. I'm regretting it. So, we're doing a distance challenge this week for the Mi Duole crew. So I threw out some prizes for the top 3 farthest distances this week, and everyone is showing up for the competition. So we are 3 days into it. Number 1 position has like 350 miles. The 2 is at 300, and the rest of us are quite a ways behind. But
I felt like you made up some good ground today, though. Like you're in the hunt, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I can't win my own competition for one. So
I just feel like number 1 position went too much too soon. I think that's going to come back to bite.
There's a lot of week left too. There's always still Sunday too to sneak something in there. So, but yeah, I mean, I think most of us are at least 8 hours into the week, and it's only Wednesday. So, and this is all trainer miles. Keep that in mind as well. So. And
what did you suggest this morning for the summer a distance challenge? But trainer miles only count for 50%.
Yeah. Yes. So it was like in 2017, one of the local shops down here threw out a similar challenge like this in the summer, and I participated in it, and it was a lot of fun. So something like this has been in the back of my mind.
Fun
to throw out to the Duoles, and with winter running so long, I was like, okay, I had a big week last week from a vert perspective.
Yeah,
If I
kind of.
had kept all those miles flat, like how far would I have gone was what I was thinking initially.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, hey, we should just do the distance challenge. Let's see what we can do. I think
Nice.
winter's going to be over 600 miles for the week.
No, thank you. Look at Josh.
That's 100 miles a day. I'm dying after 2 days.
Same.
And
I need
200,
more
so.
freaking cream on my butt. There's no way I'm making that. So, hey, couple other things. Kit pickup March 16th. That's coming up. We're gonna be at Hangar 15. I have the kits. They do have Corby's logo on the back. It looks very good. So yeah, we're gonna start. I think 7 p.m. Hangar 15 on Wasatch. Very fun. I have everything ready. Team camp. Are you both planning on attending?
I would love to. This year is not in the cards for me.
That's true.
We'll have a brand new baby. So
That's true.
Count me out for team camp, but.
And we learned some sensitive information about Corby's baby this morning. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, we've known for a while now with this pregnancy that our baby has some complications. So he has some heart complications that will have to be addressed with surgery in the first couple weeks. So we'll be up at Primary Children's for anywhere from 4 weeks to potentially 8 weeks or something. So we've got a long April and a long May potentially in front of us, but we've got a good support network.
Nice.
And we'll be fine. But
a lot of eager helpers this morning on the team ride. A lot of people.
For sure. I felt a ton of support, and Primaries is right up there close to where a lot of you guys live. So, potentially I'll have to have my bike in my car with me and sneak away for some immigration runs or something.
I'm glad you're already thinking that through. Great.
Yeah.
Very good. Hey, very good. Okay, so yeah, team camp, 13th through the 16th. We will miss you, Corby, but we will do many, many honorable rides in your name. Very
good. Are you going, Josh?
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, I plan on, hopefully, I haven't talked to Eric yet, but hopefully riding down with him, and I think we've already arranged housing, so.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Very good. So your story, I believe, the two of you, it really started together. You were like a package deal when I met you both. You both arrived. We met on Zwift, which is kind of like we talked a couple podcasts ago how cool I think Zwift is for these reasons. Like at first, I really fought against it. Like, dude, this can't be half my year.
Right.
This is dumb. And then now I'm like, this is half of what we do. Like, it is fun. It is a cool thing. And we would have never known each other, the three of us, had we not had it. But you guys arrived together, and then my first, this is so ridiculous, the first time I ever saw you, Josh, in person, was climbing that ridiculous hill on Vale Loop at Team Camp. Oh. And you and Corby rode by me, and I'm like, the freak is that? Who are these guys?
Oh,
and you just,
wall.
Do you remember? Yeah, the wall. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I swear we were on our way to Jim. I was gonna say Jim Dutton.
Yeah.
Not Jim Dutton. What? Isn't that where we were going?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What do you guys remember? How did this start? Do you guys remember?
Yeah. It was through Jason Lang.
Okay. That you were both invited?
That we first started riding with the team.
Okay.
He was like, hey, you guys should join us on Zwift. We've got this fun group. And at the time, I think Josh and I both were sort of in the like anti-Zwift camp. I remember we had tried some different platforms like Groovy,
RGT,
and some of those things to make it more bearable. And we just hadn't found anything that was fun. And I want to say it was around November, and we joined a Mi Duole ride. I think we were both pretty hooked from the beginning. We were like, oh man, this is a smash fest. That's generally how Josh and I like to ride. So it just felt like home.
Yeah. Well, if you don't know Josh, this is a podcast all about him. Grateful that you'd be on, Josh. Thank you. have a short introduction to you, but we have you've put a lot of great notes and time into our document, which is going to be fun to work through. Josh's wife, short introduction here. Grew up in Utah, graduated from BYU. That's why he's so against wearing all this red. Sorry, Josh. It's hard. Masters of Electrical Engineering. Huh. How about that? How'd you choose that, Josh?
Well, I always liked math, and
Okay.
at one point I had some dumb idea that accounting would be cool until I took an accounting class. And then I went on a mission, came back, and my brother was like, you need to do engineering or something. So I started mechanical, and I was in a mechanical engineering class, and they were talking about stresses and beams and things, and I was just like, half asleep, drooling, and just like, I am not interested in this stuff at all.
Yeah.
And then I took a physics class about electromagnetics, and I was like, oh, that's my thing. Yeah, so I switched majors to electrical engineering.
Cool. Very cool. It says here, radar engineer, loves what he does, and also works hard. Very good. Served a mission to, how do I say it, Josh? Daejeon Mission, South Korea.
Yeah.
And then you met your wife. How do I say your wife's name?
Unmi.
Unmi. While attending BYU. Very good. 3 boys. They love biking and sports. Loves to watch or go to BYU football and basketball games with his family. Dude, spicy food, and is happy that his wife is a great cook. I love that part that she wrote that. Or did you write it?
No, she wrote that.
Nice. Very cool. Dude, well, you've got some really cool here, really fun history. Do you want to just kind of work through it? Tell us about your childhood, family, where you grew up, sports, and whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
For sure. So, I'm a Salt Lake City native, West Valley City. We've joked a time or two on Zwift about how I come from the worst possible place in Salt Lake Valley, but whatever. I was almost in Taylorsville, just this close, just me and my older brother. He's 5 years older than me. I went to Granite High School.
Oh, man. Rest in peace,
remember that
Granite.
one?
Yeah.
I was one
gone.
of I think it was the second to last graduating class to
Sad.
go through Granite. Yeah.
That high school's just gone, Corby. It doesn't even exist.
Oh.
They just
I
knocked
don't
it
know
down.
all of this Salt Lake City background stuff.
Sorry, Granite
History.
Farmers. Okay.
Yeah. I played lots of sports all growing up. And in high school, I played football and soccer primarily. Those were my 2 things. Didn't really have time for anything else because I was also playing in a band at the same time. I played the drums.
Nice.
I started learning that when I was in 6th grade, and it took a few years of lessons. And I played in, junior high bands, high school bands, whatever. And then at some point in high school, I started playing with a few dudes, doing the rock and roll thing.
Nice.
And had some fun with that.
By the way, as well as I know Josh, I totally forgot about all this musical stuff that he shared with us.
Dude, this is like a huge part of Josh's life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm always throwing out song recommendations,
Mhm.
and I don't necessarily want to impose my will on anybody, but I highly think a lot of the music I listen to, and then think very low of everybody else's for some reason. Rap, I hate rap. I despise rap and country. Those two are like, they're of the devil in my opinion. But rock and roll, classic rock, that's where it's at. I'm a big Neil Peart fan, and anything with some technical drumming. I actually got into drumming from my dad. He played professionally for a while, gigging around, and I inherited his drums, and so
Dang.
I got a lot of like Santana, classic Santana, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Rush influences there, and that's just morphed into. I don't know why I'm talking about music, but
I love it.
I love music and I like to share music. But
Yeah.
some of my favorite bands: Coheed and Cambria, the Bluestones, the Strokes, the Kills, Weezer. and another genre that most people would find very off-putting, which is a instrumental progressive rock. So bands like Polyphia, where they'll just sit there and jam out and have no lyrics, and most people can't stand that, and I
You love
love
it.
that stuff. But
I have to take your music recommendations more serious now. That's why this paragraph is important. Yes.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding.
Didn't mention it, but yeah, we went through multiple iterations of the band thing, and ended up playing with the same like lead singer, guitarist, and bassist for a while. And we ended up playing again after we came back from our missions in 2007. And at that point, we finally paid some money to get some better recordings of our stuff and put it to a music. Well, we made a music video as well with a mission buddy who studied film. So
Is that the one you shared with us?
yeah.
That was awesome.
That was that.
Which, when I first pulled that up, I thought like, oh, this is going to be funny. And
Same,
then as I got
same,
into it, I was like,
same.
hey, this is really
This is
good.
good. Yeah, I agree.
You're going
I
to have to share
appreciate it.
that with the team, Josh.
Well, I handed it out to Stu, and it's open link to anybody who has
Okay.
it. So
I'll include the link with the show notes.
it's
Very
in your
good.
discretion.
Nice. Very cool. All right, can you talk?
Monetize that.
Yeah, that we haven't gotten that far yet, and it's kind of
Do you-
died.
What about South Korea? I've never met anyone that went to Korea. Is this you got to tell a little bit about this, what it was like and where you went.
Oh, so to start off, I absolutely loved Korea. At the time, it was kind of split into 4 different missions. One is, anyway, I went to the southwest portion, and Korea is kind of funny. I mean, it has the same kind of dynamics we do here, and where we kind of, oh, you're a southern bumpkin or whatever from Alabama or whatever, and have your drawl and whatever. Well, they feel the same way in Korea about their southwest part of the country, which I was serving in. So if you ever, and it's funny because my wife, she is from the southeast side, which is they think a lot of themselves, and they don't tend to think very much about the bumpkins over there on the other side, and their slow speech and their drawl and whatever else. But
Crazy.
I loved it, and served 2005 to 2007 there, and that's where I learned to love Korean food. And I mean, I liked spicy food before, but that really taught me how to just, like, I fell in love. Like, to the point where nowadays I don't even like something to eat something if it's not spicy. Like, give me a burger, I smother it in pickled jalapenos. You give me fries, I don't go for fry sauce, I go for chipotle fry sauce or some other variation, and I'm picking up hot sauces wherever I go. And
The other day, Josh was here at the shop waxing his chain, and I was eating lunch, and he comes walking over to me with this, like, he goes out to his truck and comes back in with this bottle of hot sauce.
I forgot I brought
Hey.
it with my lunch to eat. So.
Hey, you should put this on your burrito.
Came home from Korea, and maybe you met your wife at BYU. Is that true?
Yeah. So, yeah, I was an undergraduate student, had some mutual friends, and she was like, "Oh, hey, there's this girl we know, and she's Korean. You might be interested." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that'd be cool," because I'd love to try and speak Korean with people when I had the opportunity. Anyway, I meet her, and I think I asked her out on a date, and then it was for the following Friday or whatever. And I was sitting over there at the time. I was living basically by myself in an apartment outside of BYU in approved housing area, and I was sitting there by myself making my own food like a sucker, thinking, man, that girl that I asked on a date, she's probably sitting in her house too, just making food by herself. And so I texted her or called her up, and I was like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, about to eat dinner. I was like, yeah, so am I, but I don't have any. And so she invited me. I basically invited myself over.
Oh my god.
And I ate at her house, I think, almost every day that week before we even went on our first date. And So when people ask like how we met or how we fell in love, I'm always like, yeah, I fell in love with her at first bite. So
That's so good.
she's a really good cook, particularly Korean
now we
food.
know why she put that in the opening paragraph. Very good.
I've
That's
had, I've been lucky enough to have some of her cooking too, and I can vouch it's tasty.
That's fun. Very cool.
They make it less spicy for me though.
All right. How about day in the life of Josh? Where do you work? What do you do? I know you have 2 sons. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
First one we had while we were still undergraduates. That was rough, but we made it through. Both of us got our master's degrees, and I had a job lined up. And soon after graduating with our masters, we had the twins.
Twins.
So
Okay.
Riker and Preston. They're 9 years old. Morgan, he's 12, and they're a handful, but we love them. So, yeah, and I work at Artemis Inc., a small company, very small company, with the main branch being out in New York on Long Island. But we operate here in Spanish Fork at the airport, where we have our testbed aircraft and the radars that we make. So they kind of manufacture them in New York, and then they send them out here, and we put them on our testbed aircraft, fly them, and so yeah, I do some flying in the airplane, testing radars. We go on demos to demonstrate them to customers, basically, yeah. But then I also do a lot of programming and like software development, algorithm design, radar system design, yeah, all the above.
Dude, this paragraph
Yeah.
I'm reading of what you do, I'm like, you might as well have written this in Korean.
Right? That's what I
Yeah,
was thinking too.
don't know why I went into so much detail.
Dude, I love it. This is
there.
crazy. I mean, it's only cool because as a kid and you're like, well, what should I do for a job? Like, the thought of what you are doing for a job is mind-blowing.
I think we could at least read one or two of these sentences just to convey
Okay.
the complexity of what Josh does.
I
Okay.
can't
Our
even
company
read them.
primarily makes synthetic aperture radars, SAR, but with my help have adapted our radars to ground-moving target indication, GMTI, direction finding, and foliage penetration for detection of hidden objects under thick tree cover.
So cool. This basically means I write a lot of code day in and day out on both high-level scientific Python and lower-level C++, as well as coming up with the mathematical models for representing physical systems such that we can then solve the problems on a computer using parallelizable algorithms that can be implemented. I'm done. Dude, this is wild.
I apologize.
I love it, dude. I think it's so cool. I think
Yeah.
it's rad. Good for you, Josh. Way to be smart.
Thanks.
Very good.
So,
All right, so
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no,
I was just going to ask how. So everybody kind of has this moment where they start, where they can say, "Okay, I'm going to get into whatever endurance activities." How'd that kind of start?
well, I mean, I'd say it started. All right, yeah, I know when it's. Well, I've always been interested. I've always liked running and playing sports, and I mountain biked when I was younger, and I always found that I was pretty good at those things, but never did like the long distance. Like I never did cross country. Even once when I was younger, I did like the mile was my longest event. But I came back from the mission, right, and I needed a new bike because I only had hand-me-downs, and so I went and bought myself a Gary Fisher, and it got stolen at my first apartment in Provo, and I was super bummed. But I happened to get a little bit of payout from insurance for that, and I took that like $300 or whatever I got with the payout, and I went and bought my first road bike, which was a '83 Trek touring bike, steel frame, with the down tube variable shifters, or suicide shifters as they're sometimes referred to. And I started riding that, and I even went out on some. BYU has like a chapter or like a cycling club or whatever. It's not an official team or anything, started riding with them, and I noticed that, I could keep up with these guys. And I remember a squat peak or so when I was going up this thing, trying to do the down tube shifters and adjust to the varying gradients up that thing, and I was keeping up with everybody. And it's always a shock to everybody else when they look at you when you first show up on that like piece of crap bike, and they're like, "Oh, who's this guy? He doesn't even
love that.
look at his kit." I was wearing like a hand-me-down like bib shorts as well. My first shoes that I got, the guy also had these bib shorts. He's like, "Well, here, you're a poor college student. Why don't you take this too?" And they went up to like past my mid-thigh. That's how high they were. They were like short shorts. And people must have just been like, "Who the crap is this dude?" But it's fun to show up and
Yeah, it is.
kick people's butt on a piece of crap bike. But eventually, when I did, so that got me started. Yeah, and I slowly upgraded bikes ever since, and yeah, it's been good. Corby he's been very instrumental in that. So my dad got me my first actual road bike, which was the same bike that basically like Lance Armstrong rode, one of those USPS Treks. Corby will remember it. Yes. And I rode that for quite a while, and then decided to finally put on my big boy pants and buy a real bike. And Corby helped me find this Orbea Orca on KSL. And I went up there and got it. It had Di2, 9,000, Dura-Ace 9,000, and these deep section Reynolds wheels, and it was awesome. Except for that, it had a slipping seat post, which was not awesome and drive me crazy. But thankfully, Corby was starting in on. That was when he was starting into like the beginnings of what became cycling upgrades. Like he was just doing it out of his garage, and he was like, "Listen, if you trade me your frame, and I'll give you this other frame, which was a Scott. Help me out, foil. Scott foil." Yeah, and so that started it, and I just like swapped all my components over to this Scott and started riding that, and then it went from that to what I'm on now, which is the Pinarello Dogma S8. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes, that first Orbea deal, that was when I was just sort of getting into this buying bikes and keeping some parts for myself and whatnot. And I think I found that deal and was like, "Josh, trust me, this is a killer deal. Like you can buy this, and even if you don't like the whole bike, like you should just do it and keep some parts or whatever." And I think it took about a week of convincing with numbers and math and stuff like, "Hey, this is a good idea." And he pulled the trigger, and then did a couple frame swaps after that. But yeah,
nice.
I had to prove my system to him first.
Josh has listed some really fun, most memorable bike experiences, memorable stories. And obviously Corby and Josh, I mean, you guys are together most days, wouldn't I say? I mean, like 90% of your rides are together? Yeah? Okay. Before we move to those stories, I do want to hear, I think it'd be fun to hear from both of you. Josh, what kind of drew you in, and then you, Corby, what draws you into cycling? Why did you land on it? What is it about it that you love?
Well, for one, it's not on 2 feet. I mean, I like running, but it's purely as a form of cross training. And if I could play football, I probably would, but it's, tackle football is really not an option anymore. Plus it very quickly deteriorates your body, right? So,
yeah.
And I've always loved biking. I mean, my parents, they actually did race bikes when they were younger, and they were some of the only people I knew that did that. And they, from an early age, got us into mountain biking, and I've always loved it. And so when I got that road bike, it was just like an instant, yeah, I belong on one of these things. So
cool. How about you, Corby?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this a little bit last night in our group messages where we were talking about that article of some of these cyclists who've got on Zwift and then like Zwift enough that they just move indoors as their cycling platform, like total, right?
Right.
And I was thinking how I'm definitely not that person. Like I can handle it for 6 months through the winter, but last night I was just thinking about like riding a bike outdoors and how I don't know, it shouldn't be as fun and amazing as it is, but there's just nothing like the skinny tires on nice pavement outdoors, pushing yourself uphill, flying down descents. Like I just love it.
I would
can't get enough of it.
I would add on to this some of the other things I love about cycling, which is like, I mean, and I'm an engineer, so I can't help myself, but there's so much about it that can be like engineered, right?
Yeah.
Like you can change out bike components and do small upgrades to your bike, and they can upgrade how fast you can ride on your bike, or just like diving into the data as well. Like I geek out on data like nobody's business. Like Jason Lang does a pretty good job of it, I hear, but
Yeah.
I could say I don't know, I might rival him. Like I'll stalk people's numbers and
Do
I'll look
data
at my
wars.
own. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you in as a coach on my training peaks. I want somebody to dive in because I have no idea what I'm looking at.
Unfortunately, I don't think I actually know that much about what it's supposed to be like, right? That would be someone like Eric.
Nice. Hey, well, let's work through these. These are really fun. Although you said it might not be the best to divulge all details. I'll leave that up to you. Do you want to share some of these most memorable bike experiences that you've had?
Yeah. I had most of them they're memorable because they're miserable. But we won't start with those. We'll start with a positive, an upbeat one. So I think actually one of my most memorable experiences with Corby and Brendan Gaskins, who rides with us on the Zwift in the morning and stuff, right?
He lived up here last year, by the way. So he was riding in real life with us a lot, Brendan.
Yeah.
Nice.
So there's this. So we were on a Squaw Peak ride, which we'll go and do in the mornings. Wake up stupid early at like 4 a.m. and get out and go over there from our house or Corby's shop in Mapleton and over there up Provo, Squaw Peak, and then back. Pretty simple. While we were coming back, so there's a segment that goes all the way along University Avenue that comes out of Provo Canyon, past
Just by
BYU.
Stadium. Yeah.
And all the way to Center Street in Provo. It's like 5.5 miles long or so.
Tons of stoplights.
Yeah, there's like I counted them on Google Earth, and there's like 10 or 11, something like that. And it's impossible to not hit at least one of them. And we were coming out. There's always those strong canyon winds in the morning, and we were flying. And this normally happens. And you feel good and you like to hit it until like that first light. You're almost guaranteed always to hit one of these first lights. And by hit it, I mean hit it red. So you have to stop. But we were hammering because the first one went green and we were like, okay, feeling good. And we just kept hammering. And next one's green and it just kept going. And we get, the bottom line is we made it all the way to Center Street, this 5-mile segment with 11 stoplights.
Nice.
And it was an act of God. We didn't hit a single one. And we demolished the prior. I think our average speed was 33.7 miles per hour, and we demolished the prior comm. But it was kind of funny because we almost died.
I almost died.
Corby, I get, yeah. We were coming. There's this left turn like light that comes onto our road, and this car that was coming out just, I don't know what they were thinking. They just swung across both lanes of traffic and onto the shoulder of the road, and I'm behind Corby at the time because he's pulling, and I'm like, okay, Corby's dead. He's dead.
I was ready to like bury my nose into this car. I was so committed to this calm.
we at that point, Brendan was the only smart one of us, and he hit his brakes, and that was it for him. He never caught back on, and we continued just hammering. It was funny though, because his time, even though it was 30 seconds behind us, he still came in the top 3. So had we played it more safe, we still would have got the calm. But yeah, so that was number 1. Like that was just
Nice.
that was a riot. Let's see, what did I have here? Oh yeah, I only bring this up because I think Corby talked about it a bit on his. I was there for that. Me, him, and Jeff Montague were the only ones that finished that day, and Corby was lucky, and he just because he got up earlier. I think he rode through the night. I can't remember.
I started at 11 p.m.
11 p.m.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Corby.
he got to end while it was still light outside.
Yeah.
I did not start that early, and I finished faster, but once that dark started to set in, it was just like darkness also. Just like that's when everybody else that was still there just quit. They were like, I can't do it. And I don't know if it was the melatonin or like what it is, but those lights going out just were like, that was it. Motivation was gone. And it was the hardest thing to get those last laps.
There was another guy there that literally was like 2 laps from finishing. And he
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
for real. Yeah.
He just couldn't do it. I tried to convince him, and he was like, I mentally, I can't do it. I'll try on another day, is what he said. Which made no sense. But, yeah, and I was so out of it. Like, I came back down, and Jeff Montague was the only one really still there with me. And he was like, are you sure you did enough, dude? Like, I think you have one more. And I was like, do I? I don't know. And so I went up and did a whole nother one, yeah. And yeah.
Just to be safe?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Did it turn out that you needed it?
No, it was totally one extra.
Brutal.
Nice.
That's
All right, but I think one of my favorite of these stories is, well, I don't know. There's 2. So in Payson, I mean, we've all had those bonk rides, right, where we just like
yes.
demolish ourselves needlessly. Whether it's lack of preparation or just taking on too much too soon or not really realizing how hard something was actually going to be. Well, that's happened to me on multiple occasions when out towards the South Payson area. And in Payson, there's this Beto's burrito shop, right? The Beto's. And I like to refer to it as like my Beto savior, that restaurant right there. That's because on multiple occasions, I've absolutely just completely died, bonked, hit the wall as hard as you could possibly hit, and all I could manage to do was get to that Beto's, even though it's just like another 5 miles from my house, and just sit down and like cry in a burrito. So, but one in particular was when I went up, it was not too long after breaking my collarbone. I was just getting back on. It'd only been like a week or 2, I feel. And I was like, okay. Like, I need some good long miles in my legs to build back up fitness. So I had this bright idea that I would go by myself and take on the Nebo Loop, but not doing it the normal way up Payson. I would go down to Nephi, I figured would be easier. I don't know why. And then up the south summit of Nebo. And Corby can tell you that the south summit, there's something about that. But like the sun's always hitting it, stronger than the other side, and it's steeper, it's a little bit shorter, and it's just like I've never hit it and had good legs, it feels. Well, and this was that day, so same type of thing. I don't think I prepared enough, and even by Nephi, just flat riding down to there, I was already like, feeling it, and I was dead, and I was like, well, okay. I'll get some food at this gas station, and then I'll go on my way. So I get up there and I start going, and I'm just like, this is bad. And I got to a point where I just didn't even know how I was turning pedals. Like, it was so slow and choppy and hot, and I was like, I'm gonna die. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it. And I'm in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone reception. I can't call anyone. I'm by myself. I'm running out of water. There's nowhere until Payson Lakes, which is like 4 of the roller coaster peaks away. And I just kept pedaling and pedaling, and somehow, like, I made it to the top and took a picture. And I looked at my Strava post for that afterwards. I was like, hey, I actually looked like happy at the top. And like, that's definitely not how I was feeling. Like, I was half dead. But I get back on my bike, and as like Clark mentioned, like, and in that last podcast, it's a lot of work getting out of Nebo. So like, I had 1,000 feet of climbing, and I don't know how I made it back. Somehow I got down to Payson, and I was dead, and I fell down off my bike into the parking lot of this church on the grass, and I laid there for 30 minutes, delusional, dizzy. I called a few friends asking if they could come get me.
Pretty sure you called me on this one.
No one could come and get me. And I was telling them, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'll die if I try and ride my bike home. So, but nothing. So I mustered up the strength to ride downhill like a half a mile to the Betos. Barely made it there. Got myself 2 big glasses of Dr. Pepper and a full carne asada burrito. Took me 30 minutes to eat that thing, and then I like slowly made my way back at like 10 miles per hour to my house 5 miles away.
So good.
Never been so miserable and so close to just like total exhaustion on the bike.
Dude, what about this last sentence is so good. Turns out I have lots of stories like this of me being an absolute idiot. Dude, I love it. That's so fun.
That basically sums things up there.
Nice.
But
Corby, any follow-up questions for that experience?
Hey, I'm just glad I wasn't there for that one.
You wouldn't have wanted to be with me. It was bad. You remember what I was like after our experience trying to get that ride with Eric, where we were trying to beat like 100 miles in 4 hours or
Yeah.
Anyway, I bonked on that one. Bonked really hard and went back to Corby's shop and had some food. But like, it was that times like 100. Like, I was bad. It was bad.
Brutal. All right. I know there's one more. You decide if you want to tell that one. You've also got another one here.
Did I? Man, what? How?
Let's see.
The broken collarbone, is that one?
Yeah, broken collarbone's one.
Oh, that was the broken. Oh, yeah. Any funny bike crashes or yeah. So.
I wasn't there for this one either, by the way.
Yeah, Richard Bourget was there for that. If you want to hear about my bike crash, I learned a valuable lesson that day, which I think is pertinent and valuable for everybody to learn, and hopefully a good way and not the bad way, which is after a broken collarbone. But I was on I think it was a Velo Club ride with some Nebo guys as well as Richard Bourget, and it started in Provo and then came back over, and you hit Hobble Creek up and down sort of thing. But in Provo, as we were making our way over to Springville, you know how sometimes these big groups, like, we try and be pretty respectful when we go down there for our team rides in St. George, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not be too unwieldy and all over the place. Well, this one was not that way. There were like 4 or 5 people across, you know, taking up like the entire lane, and like cars just like being like, what in the world is this thing I've come upon, these cyclists? And it was getting at me. I was getting irritated. I was like, why is everybody being like this? And so I was like making a point to try and follow the rules, stay no more than 2, and be over by the shoulder as far as I could. And that it continued once we hit Hobble Creek, which was my mistake. So Hobble Creek turns into single lane or single lane each way. And it's pretty narrow at points, and the shoulder is terrible, basically deteriorating, sloughing off, and I guess I forgot about that, didn't realize that. Anyway, it was busy, lots of cars coming, and I was determined to be like, I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to prove the point that I'm going to get over as far as I can. So I was basically hugging the line. We were riding 2x2, and suddenly the line was gone. The road had sloughed over like so much that it had gone beyond the line, and there just wasn't any road there. And on the other side was like this 50-foot like embankment and a guardrail that was like 4 feet away. Like that's how much road had sloughed away. Anyway, I saw that and I was like, all right, well, I'm either going down this embankment or I'm going to try and pull my wheel up. But you know how it is. Once your wheel is already on the other side of a little lip, you're done. So I just went down like a sack of potatoes and smacked my collarbone on the ground, and or however you break your collarbone when in these things. And the guy behind me, crashed up and over the top of me, and yeah, that was a miserable experience.
Awful.
And it also was very scary for my wife too, because like I was in so much pain I couldn't really think straight, and a lady in the group with us like grabbed her phone and called my wife from it. So my wife got this call from this stranger, this unknown person. It's like, I'm here on the side of the road with your husband, and he just broke his collarbone. He's needing to go to the hospital. And my wife just like starts immediate like panic attack, right?
Of course.
And thankfully it was nice to have Richard there. So he's only like a half mile down from the canyon, and he rode back, got his van, came and got me, and took me to the hospital where I met my wife, and yeah.
Dude,
But
what a good dude.
so the valuable lesson from all this, which I learned, which the rule is in most places, and it is like this in Utah, is if you need to stay, close to the shoulder of the road, as long as there is a shoulder of the road and it's safe to do so. If it's unsafe to do so, you are fully within the law to take over the lane and have that be your lane. And there was no shoulder, and we had all the right to take that full lane for ourselves, for our safety, and that's what we should have done. And I shouldn't have been feeling this like nervousness that I needed to get over and let people by. Like that's not important. What's important is your safety as a cyclist on the road in that situation, and understand that if the shoulder is unsafe, you should take the lane. But
nice. I agree, 100%. Corby, you weren't on the ride, but do you remember this experience?
I do. I think I also got a call that day, and I'm just realizing I'm a bad friend. And I wasn't able to go grab Josh and take him to the hospital. I think Richard Bourget ended up doing that. But I am still in Unmi's good graces because Josh hasn't had any bad crashes or anything on a ride with me. So I guess that's one pro.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's nice. Corby is one of the few people that my wife trusts me to go out with and ride with. Like if it's someone else, like she'll be like, who's this person? I don't know this person. But I'm like, Corby's there, it's okay. Like we're going.
We'll be fine. Yeah.
Which I don't know why that's a comforting thing that Corby will be there.
We do stupid stuff, but we always come home in one piece.
Nice. I like that. That's like your tagline. Very good. Josh, we talked yesterday, and this next little paragraph you wrote I think is really fun. Do you want to talk about that, kind of your mantra?
Yes. So this was related to crashing. I like to mountain bike. I loved Moab as a kid and Slick Rock, and I lived for that stuff. But I crashed my fair amount, and I learned over time that those times I crashed were usually when I was trying to ride my bike down something that I wouldn't have been able to ride my bike up. Say like steep ledges or just very complicated sort of mountain bike trails, tracks, whatever. And I go down them and I crash. And so I learned, I was like, you know what? If I can't go up, I probably shouldn't go down. And I adopted that as sort of like my philosophy or my mantra that I would live by, my rule. And that's stuck with me. I remember being out on mountain bike rides with buddies and not being able to get up something, and they just watch me like try over and over and over. Eventually they're just like, dude, you're never gonna get it, we need to go, you're annoying, let's go. And I was like, shoot. So I always tried to make it up things, but then like I've kept that till today. So even on a road bike, it's the same. If I can't go up this hill, I don't deserve to go down it. Like I should have to earn that downhill. So Nebo or, and it applies to, how lots of people will go up, take their mountain bikes on the,
Deer Valley.
What are they called? The lifts to the top of ski resorts. Yeah, I don't do that because I've seen lots of people crash coming down those because they don't learn this respect for the bike. They think, I don't have to do the hard part of getting up there, which teaches you a lot about the skills and what the mountain's like. And then you get to the top, you jump on your bike and you start going down, and there's this slick patch of gravel, and you eat it, and next thing you know, you're on a life flight or something down the mountain. And, so it's just kind of a thing that I live by, and it's part of why I love uphill as much as I do.
Yeah, you do. Freaking beast. Corby, follow-up question there? Anything?
No.
Very good. Okay, man, let's move in. I think it's fun to talk a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to training, some of your advice. How are you what do you do when you're thinking about when I'm getting out, how hard you're riding, where you're going? Anything that guides you there?
Oh.
How do you manage it all? How do you plan for it?
A lot of questions in what you just asked me.
How about this? I don't see you, so you don't race a lot, and
No.
you said that. So what is it all about? Like, what are you training for? Why do you work so hard?
All right, so yeah, basically, I'm motivated a lot by this idea that I'm not getting any younger. And it's kind of sad. Like all of us are in this state where, like, when we're in our 20s and we're at our prime to really physically, right? We're all busy. We're doing school. We're starting a family. We have toddlers running around. We can't be spending all our time riding a bike. And then once we're like in our late 30s and we're, on the other side of that peak coming back down, we're like, oh shoot, now I have all the time in the world, but my body's getting older. And so it's like, I feel like it's a race against the clock to see what my peak performance can be before like I start sliding down this inevitable slope, So a lot of what motivates me is, and Squaw Peak is one of them. I don't know if you've ever come down that way and ridden Squaw Peak. It's a good like kind of time trial hill. It's around 25 to 30 minutes, depending on fitness, I'd say. And it's just kind of like a good benchmark. Like, how can you do? It's, 20 minutes, kind of like an FTP effort. And it's like a yearly thing for me. Can I beat my previous year's PR? And some years I've really tried hard at it. Some years I've done like trainer road and intervals and whatever else to get me there, or a diet or whatever it is. But yeah, PRs I'm a Strava junkie, and that's my motivation, and trying to get whatever calm I can, anywhere I can.
By the way, doesn't it feel good to be a year older and get a PR? It's like you look back at what you did last year and you're like, hey, like for me, I'm almost 40, okay? And I'm faster than I was last year, faster than the year prior.
Yeah.
I know that can't continue forever, but like Josh is saying.
I might mention that my one other motivation besides those things is to not have Corby beat me on hills.
How's that working out?
Well, it worked out good until last year, and that was rather annoying. But
I think we all know Josh is very competitive.
Yeah.
So Yeah. In general, like Josh and I, when we ride outside, it's like impossible for us to go chill up the climb.
Yeah. Very good.
Even though at the start we're like, okay, we're just going to go easy, right? And then by the end, no.
I blame it on Corby. He might not think so, but I swear to you, we'll start. I say, Corby, we're gonna go chill on this, and then we start fairly chill. I'm putting out sub threshold maybe, but then like I see him start like inching away, and I'm like, what's he doing? And I start like inching back, and then I think he pushes it a little bit more, and then next thing you know, we're like both
Dude, I love
400 watts. We're in our VO2 max, and just like killing ourselves up this hill, and we're a sprint effort at the top to get to the
That's the best. Come
stupid
on.
roundabout first.
I know Josh's competitive drive, and so I always have to like push that button.
It's the best. That is so fun. Very good. Hey, I don't know how much time you guys have left, but there's one thing I want to make sure we talk about, which is you said this to me yesterday, Josh, which I really love, what your mom said to you. Do you want to talk about that? Kind of like your philosophy on that she said. I think it's good. Do we want to attribute your mom to this quote?
Sure.
Okay, good.
So
Let's do it.
yeah, you edit these afterwards, don't you?
Okay, yeah, I'll edit it out.
Uh,
I'll give it a little bleep if we need it.
Anyway, so it was kind of a life lesson and another mantra I picked up for myself. And I remember when I was young, I like to complain about things. Corby might know that. You might know that. I think anybody who's met me is pretty keenly aware that I like to complain. So I was sitting there whining about something to my mom about how I couldn't do this and this and this and that, and she was like, she listened, and then at the end she was like, you know what, Josh, life's a bitch, and then you die. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. And I've kind of taken that to heart as I got older, as just kind of like this. Life's too short, like there's, in particular, I remember this one year cycling where I was just like, I was struggling with some like pain in my sciatic or somewhere in like my butt down my leg, and it hurt, and it was really bugging me, and I think it was more mental than anything else. But like I got to a point where I went to a doctor, and I let it kind of consume me, and I even took time off the bike, like a month and a half, and came back, and all I had after that was a month and a half less fitness. Like my fitness tanked, getting on the bike was hard afterwards, and my sciatica didn't feel any better, my butt didn't feel any better, whatever it was. And I was like, well, that was a ginormous waste of time and everything. And I just decided, life's too short, life sucks, and then you're dead. So instead of just like not doing anything and then dying, I need to just get out and get stuff done and do cool things and make life worth living, so that when I do die, I'm like, yeah, that I did stuff, I accomplished things. And that's one of the things I love about cycling, and that draws me to Mi Duole as well, is just this idea that I suffer. Like life isn't easy. Cycling your bike, riding your bike up a hill is not easy, but it's worth it. And the other alternative is to just sit around doing nothing till you're dead.
Yeah. Hey, Corby, any questions for Josh before we wrap up?
I was going to ask him. We didn't get into the knitting. He had mentioned earlier in his write-up that one of his big hobbies that nobody probably knows is also that he likes to knit. So I was just going to ask him, when the time comes that he has to put the bike away for whatever reason, because he's old or whatever, is it going to be music or knitting first?
Well, I don't know. I feel like knitting is the answer, to be honest, which is kind of lame. But yeah, drumming brings me happiness, and that's about it. But when I knit things, I can bring my wife and other people happiness. I knit her things every winter. Basically, once winter break comes, it's like, all right, time to bust out the needles and yarn.
That's
And
money.
I'll make her something. I made some stuff for my kids, and I made some stuff for her mom, and her mom's loved it. And I love that she has used like the crap out of what I sent her. Like, it sounds like she uses it all the time, and I'm like, score. Like, that's exactly what I wanted. And anyway, I like it because it's got that engineering. I've always liked creating things ever since I was young. Like, I like just making. Like, I like to paint things. I like to do projects. I like to do woodworking. Actually, you didn't ask me that, but woodworking is probably one of the first things when I'm too old to ride my bike, I'll probably start
Whittle?
woodworking more.
Yeah.
Not like making furniture things and
Cool.
stuff.
I've seen the knitting and I've seen the woodworking, and I can say he's very good at both of them.
Fun.
But Josh, are you one of these guys? I've seen a few of them over the years that sit in church and knit. Are
No.
you one of those guys?
So that's one of the things I saw. We were at a junior jazz practice for my oldest, and this lady like set up and not knitting but something else, and I watched it how long she had to like set the thing up, and then by the time she set it up, I was like, you only have like 30 minutes to actually. What's the point of like? Is the point to show people that you're doing it, or
Yes.
like, I don't understand the point of this.
Short answer, yes.
So, most likely no. I have thought about taking stuff with me on the flights when I go on like business trips, but every time I think about that, I was like, no, I can't do that. Plus, it's the only thing I enjoy doing on flights is watching movies. So,
Not Rocky, though.
not Rocky, that's for sure.
Have you tried combining knitting with the trainer? I feel like
Hmm.
Yeah, no, and get sweat all over the yarn. Yeah, I thought about that once, but yeah, that's not gonna work. It's kind of like this morning. Spangler was telling me how he's like, dude, you need to just like get a desk set up in front of your bike and just like work from your bike. I was like, dude, I gotta write code and like do like engineering. How am I gonna like write code and focus while I'm pedaling a bike? Like, that's not gonna happen.
I can barely like watch YouTube while I'm riding. As crazy as that sounds,
Same.
like most of the time I just listen to music because I can hardly follow even
I'm
an
the
episode
same.
of like a series or anything. So I have found I can watch like GCN pretty well, and trying to sort of have to pay attention to those ones while I'm cycling, and that helps pass the time. But
If I'm riding by myself, I can do it. Like, if I just want to sit down and ride zone 2, like, yeah, I can keep a consistent zone 2 and like zone out and watch a movie. But if it's like staying with the pace bot and
Right.
Zwift, like, no, I can't.
yeah,
Same. Yeah, like this morning I even tried for a minute. I was like, all right, I got to zone out. I got to watch something. That was like a minute. I'm like, I shut it off. I can't do that. Not going to happen.
by the way, let me make a recommendation. If you guys don't have GCN Plus, I totally forgot that I had it for the last. I think I paid for a subscription like almost a year ago and totally forgot about it. There's some really good content on GCN Plus.
Cycling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cycling content.
Yes, way good. All right, Joshua, any parting words?
No, I mean, I appreciate you having me on here. I do want to say that I've gone back and I've watched some of the Mi Duole podcasts, and I'm trying to get through them. And as I've watched them, I've appreciated being able to get to know people further in a way that I didn't otherwise know. Like, I love Clark, even though like I joke with him all the time. He knows I love him, but I didn't know all those things about him. Like,
Yeah.
I knew like surface stuff and like writing things, and getting to have that deep dive and learning about people and their unique interests and what makes them tick is fun. And so, yeah, I've repented of my ways.
But didn't you say you won't listen to your own, or was that Corby? You won't listen to it.
Yeah, Corby said he won't listen to mine. Yeah.
So dumb.
No, I totally agree though. Like, I don't think there's been a single podcast where at the end I have been like, wow, that is a really awesome person
Yeah.
that, I did not know all these details about. Now I know that much more about him. So I, for one, love the podcast series and the time that you take, Stu, to make it happen for all of us. Because I think we're 78 episodes deep,
Yeah.
and really helps us know each other that much better, especially where some of us only really see each other on the Zwift rides, and so
That's right.
we don't get to ride in real life and have those like 5-minute, 10-minute conversations riding next to someone in real life.
Yeah.
This is a really awesome part of this team, I'd say.
Nice. Thanks for being on, fellas. Thanks for taking the time. I think it's worth it. I mean, the community is the coolest part of our group. I mean, that's what I found. So I agree. It's awesome to hear everybody's story and kind of what makes them tick. So thanks, Josh. Appreciate your time. Corby,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, dudes. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
4 hours.